That's everybody that gets this one. The wait a minute signal I was not familiar with. It was like, wait a minute, or something like this, right? Okay. So here, let's talk about privacy. So this is a concern for maybe how my data is being used, and this is going to influence the product, right? So you're going to develop some product, and you have to think about how the data is going to be used. Frequently what happens is that at Iowa State, I'll be asked to be a judge in a class where a bunch of students have designed apps. So undergrad graphic design class, maybe, they come in and they design, and you get students who are like, I've designed an app for undergrads to manage their weight and their health while they're in college. And here's my beautiful app. And it will be beautiful, and it will be in Figma, and have really nice screens. And then I'll say, who's going to buy your data? And they're like, what? And I was like, okay, so you can sell an app for a couple dollars or rupees, but the real money is in the data you're getting. What data are you collecting, and who's going to buy it? Because if you were doing health data about, you got 30,000 undergrads at Iowa State, and I know, because I'm the company, how they're using their bodies and what they're eating and how much they're exercising, then Nike wants that data, right? Or these different sports companies want that data so they can sell to them. And you can decide ethically if you want to sell the data. That's a different question. But somebody wants the data. And all the apps, like if you've got an app that you use and you're not paying a lot for it, then your data is the product, right? Your data is being used and subsidizing the cost. There's a company in the US that was started out as truck tracking. So they would put the little GPS things on the top of the trucks, and the trucks are driving around the US, and they're like, well, we've got to make sure our truck drivers don't stop too long for coffee and this sort of thing. And they're driving down the highways, and somebody at the company realized, like, well, we're tracking enough trucks now that we have sort of sensors on speed of the roads. Like, we have enough trucks on most of the roads that we can say pretty accurately what's the traffic rate on this road versus this road. So they switched to becoming a traffic data company. And the trucking is a tiny piece now, and really they're selling traffic data, which then you can use for all sorts of purposes. Okay, so privacy. So I got some slides. Lori Craner at Carnegie Mellon University. Carnegie Mellon is like a MIT sort of place that's not MIT, but it's really not. It's really a bunch of smart people. And they're especially strong in robotics. And so I really like her slides. So I've got some of her slides I'm going to summarize. She talks about the trouble with being human. Humans are not capable of, cryptographic keys. They have unacceptable speed and accuracy. But these humans are sufficiently pervasive that we have to deal with them, right? So the humans are around, but they're not very good at security. And so Lori Craner says what we need to combine, do people eat peanut butter and jelly here? Maybe not. So this is supposed to be a sandwich that's very popular in the US, is the peanut butter on one side and the jelly on the other. And when you see it, you're like, oh, they're about to be a sandwich. And her goal is, can we combine security and privacy with usability? And this is a stretch, because usability is like, let's make it easy for humans. And if you make security easy for humans, then it's not very secure, usually. So normal usability doesn't have an adversary trying to attack you, right? It'd be like, oh, I'm going to design my app to be usable in a big windstorm. Maybe then you have an adversary to fight. So we need to, take care of the attackers. And so here's an example of what she talks about. So humans, there need to be the security, but humans are the, if I'm doing security, humans are a secondary constraint. I don't need to worry about the humans. First, I need to worry about security. If I worry about usability, I say humans are the first constraint. And if I'm doing usable security, this is Lori Craner's term, usable security, then I'm going to consider both. So here's some examples. I'm mostly worried in the security world, when you're just wearing your security hat, you're like, humans are the attackers. And then over here, usability, it's like, well, I need to make humans okay. And here we've got to worry about both, right? So you can see these different ones, and we're trying to end up here where we're combining this. And how do you do that when you're designing a secure system? So one example she gives is graphic passwords. So click on the face, where humans' brains are really wired for faces. I don't know if you know that, like we have cells in our brain just for faces of people you love. Cells that light up. There's like face cells. And you can tell this in part because if you take a photo of somebody's face and you turn it upside down, then the face cells don't light up. Artists know this because if you are an artist, faces are one of the hardest things to draw because faces are we're really sensitive to faces. So a lot of artists will start learning to draw by drawing a face upside down because then it makes your face recognition incapable and you're just looking at proportions and lines and features. So I can say, the security person says, let me to the space of all possible passwords. I'm going to want a capital letter and a symbol and all these things they want. And the human person says, but how difficult is that to create? Like, how much pain are we inflicting on the person? And so they're trying to combine these, right? So there's this idea of try to represent both needs. The other part she talks about is this paradox of, people say they'll do one thing, but they don't really do it. They're like, oh yeah, I want my preferences to be private. I want all my data to be secure. But then when you say, so therefore I want OTPs on everything you do, they're like, I don't care that much. Right? And so they'll back off. Have y'all heard of dark patterns? Usually in usability, people talk about design patterns. So a typical design pattern is like when there's a login, almost all the logins now have a forgot password link, right? And there's a whole thing you do about, I forgot the password, there's a new password, whatever. And the whole pattern about getting the OTP to check, and that's a pattern. Dark patterns are things that companies do to make you do behaviors that they want you to do, but you don't really want to do. So maybe you're buying airplane tickets and it'll have a thing appear that's like, only 2 seats left, buy now. And there recently was an expose about, I think it was American Airlines, and 3 other airlines were proven that that's all lying. It's just totally made up. And another one is like, this offer expires in 30 minutes. You get things like that. That's a dark pattern when it's not true, right? So when we talk about privacy, the privacy experts like Lori Craner talk about all these different flavors of privacy. I'm not going to read them all to you, but get a sense of these differences. There's an attitude, like what's my disposition to privacy? I have family members who are a little bit paranoid. They're like, oh, the world's out to get us. There are these evil people that are going to hack my email account. So if anything goes wrong with email, they're like, somebody hacked my email account. I'm like, probably not. Let me talk to you. Let me look at your email account, right? But she's worried. Preferences, concerns, right? I've got a concern about a situation. So we did have a woman, a staff member who works with me, and her email was actually hacked, and identity was stolen. So people were sending stuff as if they're her. It's taken a lot for her to fix that. So it does happen, right? The expectation thing is interesting. Like Facebook, when it first started, had really complex privacy settings. And they were, there was user pressure to make this simpler. And they did make it simpler. It's not necessarily beautiful, but there's fewer things to click. And the real question is, if I put a post on Instagram or Facebook, who will see it? That's the basic question. Where will it go? Who will see it? And if you can't answer that, then there's maybe 30 settings. How are you going to map that answer to the 30 settings? Where do you adjust, right? So the reason, this is another version of that thing with the different types of privacy. Can anyone, if you look at these, are there any of these where somebody feels like they might be in one direction on one of the attributes, but in another direction on the other attribute? Like maybe you're low on preference, but you're high on concern, or I'm just making that up. Anybody see some of these where they're a little bit more high on one and low on the other? Which one?
So the concern I'm worried that online tracking could be used to invade my
privacy, yeah.
Because I have seen it since we all know that Google kind of all our Android devices kind of secretly listens to what we say. I have had this like crazy. It might be coincidence, but I don't know what it is. Once I was like talking with my friends about some shoes, some Nikes, Air Forces, and some of that. So like we are talking about like around 1.5 hours because he's a very big shoe fanatic. So was I. So I was talking back and forth with his. So our phone is like kept here. So before that incident, I have never seen any kind of like shoe ads. Suddenly my Facebook feed are like flooded with various kind of Skechers, Nikes, Adidas shoe ads. So it's quietly tracking my listening to my words, or even if you like it happens. So it happens Google so much. I have seen it like if you going to if you go to Amazon or you I'm not suppose I'm about to buy a headphone or so. So I went to Amazon and I checked the headphone prices. Okay, so these are the headphones that I have. But I didn't buy anything. I just checked the prices. Moment after I open Google, so when you open Google Chrome, so there is search bar, and on downside there is some kind of news reports. So there will be continuous various kinds of headphone news related to headphones. These kinds of headphone came to market. Should you buy this? So if you have 5,000 rupees, so under 5,000, these are the headphones kind of good for you. But I haven't opted for this. I just check the price on Amazon or Flipkart. So that kind of concern is there. So it's clear that somehow, somewhere, the online tracking technology is being used.
Right.
So my privacy is being hampered.
Yeah.
I think also for me as well, like I'm very concerned that like they might know things, etc. But at the same time, I allow them to track me because somehow it's easier. Somehow, if I want shoes, I don't have to search up shoes. It's just coming to me. So like my
so it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah.
So at the same time, it is good, but sometimes it can be irritating.
Right. Yeah.
So
I can't explain necessarily the Google phone thing with your friend in the shoes, but I know the headphone example is from third-party trackers.
Yeah.
Right, where Amazon tracks with like, I think maybe there's one called Third Wave or something, and then Amazon says, "Hey, Third Wave, he's looking at shoes," and then Facebook says, "Hey, Third Wave, what's he doing?" And then they report out on you.
And the cookie policies are also there. So if I want to add some open new websites, so do you want a cookie? If ignore that, but sometimes you'll just accept the cookies. Accept.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the usability is to go fast past the cookies, but
so the cookies are there used for tracking our online activities and so.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very real thing. Like they listen to us. Even the memes are so much there, that you say something to the phone of the person you want them to think about. Like I was discussing Illuminati and some conspiracy theories with my friend. And suddenly on Instagram, it's
pushing that kind of content onto your feed.
Not just the content, like they were pushing top groups about Illuminati. I was like, no, please. Because I saw a church where there was an Illuminati sign.
Yeah. Any other things strike somebody about?
Behavior.
Which one?
Behavior. I use a
Behavior.
tracker blocking tool.
Yeah.
If you use a tracker blocking tool that prevents the websites you visit that prevents the tracking. But the blocking tool that can also access the tracking.
So then they know you're using the blocking tool too. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. That can access the data and you can give the data to the third party access.
Yes, it could if it's a slimy blocking tool. Yeah. So you'd want to review your blocking tool choices, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank
So
you.
nowadays also third-party application or third-party companies that are mostly from China, the Vivo phones and Android phones. I did a study on that. So in Android systems, there is a specific audio listening tool that has been pre-built. You cannot uninstall it, and that is listening to everything. That is listening only on specific devices. Due to that installation of the application, you cannot remove it all. So in behavior, if you also use a tracker blocking tool, it won't be affecting anything in that specific aspect. So it will be strongly agree. We have to use it because sometimes if we are talking about some personal things that should not be public or some official matter that should not be in public and it is being tracked, then it is a very big security threat.
This is a good example too of the mental models that we can have of systems. So for my freshmen in the bachelor's, I'm often teaching them like what a cookie is and how cookies work and how third-party cookies work, and often they're like, what? And they don't really get it until I explain it. And so you all probably understand it, and so you're able to better fight that, right? But like my grandmother wouldn't know how to do that. My mom even, So you need to have this mental model that's going to match up.
Just another point of view, we prefer to not share with the internet, but at the same time, on the other hand, we're writing everything down on ChatGPT. Even our feelings, emotions, everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's still unclear to me how much it's recording. I don't really know how much they're using. Yeah, I don't know.
So what we have to say, I would say strongly agree on preference and concern.
Okay.
In attitude, I would say strongly disagree, but because it's not too much. And behavior-wise, I would still say strongly disagree, though my preference and concern are strongly agree, because I do not use it right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good one. Yeah. All right, I'm going to keep going. Here's some good books if you're interested in deception on hacking. These are both examples of social engineering. So Kevin Mitnick is the author who is famous for hacking. And his first earlier book, the 2001, believe it or not, it was about hacking phones, right? So the internet really, the web just arrived. Who knows when the web arrived? Web arrived. Yeah.
So in 1980s?
It's like 95, 94, 95. So web comes 94, 95. So before that, a lot of people were hacking phone lines because they wanted long distance for free. And so Mitnick would do things like dress up like a person who's repairing a phone line on a telephone pole, like with the orange jacket and have a helmet. And then he would find somebody else who has that job and be like, hey, I forgot my badge today. What's the login again what's the code for the thing to get on the line? And then he would like climb up the pole and tap the line, and the guy would be like, oh yeah, it's 2487. So you just have to be convincing, and it's the social engineering. So you're not having to like break a cryptographic password. You're just trying to convince somebody that you're the person. Or he would go up and to like a secretary at a front desk and be like, oh, John is sick today, so I'm here as the substitute. Can you give me the info? And then he starts hacking the internet over here. And then he's so good at this that the FBI and the US hires him. Because they're like, you're so good at this, we're going to hire you to help us catch people.
Is there a movie on this?
Yeah, there's movie stuff. Look up Mitnick movies. I mean, the books are the more full story, and there's a little bit of movie stuff. He's interesting. He's sort of full of himself, though. Like, you get through the book, and I'm a little like, enough about how I'm so smart. Tell me the story. But
there was this screen which says that if you want to get into any place for free without being stopped, just take a ladder with you.
Take a ladder. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
they just think you're the repair guys and they let you in without.
Yeah. And there's a video you can see on YouTube of this woman talks about how she hacks people's phone accounts. So she calls up and she gets a YouTube video called Crying Baby, and she hits it play in the background. So then she'll call up and be like, hello, AT&T, I'm really sorry, man. My husband asked me to get the number really done. What? I'm not on the number? I'm not on his account, but my husband needs it now, and the baby's crying. And like she gets the account number and everything, Yeah. Okay, this is a good hacking book, though. Hacking for Social Good. So if you like this sort of thing, this is full of how to win friends and influence people. One of the students I was talking about Dale Carnegie, like win friends and influence people. I don't know if this is a popular book here. It's from the 50s, but it's sort of a book on how to be a good leader. But this is now a take on that about win friends and influence people and leave them better off. So it's another book I recommend. And these slides are all up in the drive, of course. Okay, so we talked about privacy. This is our checklist again. But then the next period of the checklist is aging and individual differences. So we saw this earlier in the week, how people are getting worse with all their impairments and accessibility, and how you design for people with physical disabilities. So this is your 1 minute reminder of accessibility and people with disabilities and different kinds of users, because that is also on the checklist. Right?
So,
2 days back you were mentioning that as age increases with respect to this light, that the sensitivity to blue wavelength reduces as people get older.
Yeah, they'll get worse at blue as you get older.
So is it good that because they talk about this blue filter on the mobile phone, so is that a good thing then?
Let's see, if you're filtering the blue, I think that's a different kind of blue, actually. I mean, they're worried about, like, I'm going to show you buttons to push, and maybe there's buttons that are, blue when you haven't touched it yet, and it gets dark blue when you mouse over it. But maybe if I'm old, I can't see the difference, so I don't know if I've clicked it successfully. But if you've got a blue filter on there, I think it's mostly the ultraviolet light. If you're just trying to keep the ultraviolet light out of my eyes, and I think they're different. But I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's about keeping me from, not sleeping and that sort of thing. Okay. And then the other reminder from previous classes, we had these 3 levels, right? So every system, so on your checklist is, here's a system. How's it going to affect the individuals? How's it going to affect the community? How's it going to affect the culture? If everybody uses it, what happens? Okay. We did trust, with the compliance, reliance, and all that. So we got to think about trust. So trust is one of our things. Okay, the next one has actual new content for you here. It's about human error and when people make mistakes. So air traffic control has a lot of human error involved, right? We're not talking maintenance, we're talking, machines, we're talking human mistakes. And the intention is the key. Are the stoves designed like this here, where there's like 4 buttons in the front and there's 4 burners here, and it's easy to turn the wrong knob?
Mostly 2 buttons.
Okay, so 2 burners, 2 knobs. And is it clear which knob goes with which burner?
Yeah, so in front of them we are like mounted.
Okay, so it could be well designed, right? Trying to think of a way to show. Yeah. So, but there's a lot of stoves in the U.S. where there's 4 burners, and then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 knobs. So it's not a normal mapping. And the best way to do this is to have something like 1, 2, 3, 4 burners, and then the 4 mapping matches.
Can also use
Which what?
color coding for the buttons. Like you can give a certain color.
The color could help too, right? That's right. Some people in their kitchens get really hung up on their color, though. Like a lot of the stoves are black, and you're like, So what's wrong here? Where's the human error? What's about to go wrong? No attachment, right? I'm about to miss my attachment. And so now there's a lot of email systems that will say, like, hey, you mentioned, Gmail now does this. You forgot your attachment. You mentioned attachment. So that's really helping with human error. So let's say I want to do, for those of you who like equations, I want to do some human error calculation. I can say, what's the probability of the event? Like, what's the probability that I forget to do my attachment? And then, given the event, what's the probability of the consequence? Like, if it's my boss and it's due right now, that's a big consequence. But if it's maybe due tomorrow and there's still time for somebody to say, hey, you forgot the attachment, then that's okay. And then here's cost of the consequence. So you can map this out, right? So here's probability of the event. Given that the event happens, what's the probability of the consequence happening? Like what's the probability that the boss says, well, you're terrible, you didn't send me the report on time, versus the probability of like, oh, hey, you just forgot the attachment. And then there's a cost of the consequence multiplied out. So that's one way to analyze this sort of risk assessment. And here's another way to put it. Like, probability of the consequence is probability of the opportunity to make an error times the error given the opportunity. Given the opportunity to have an email with no attachment, and then probably no correction in time. So if I have that thing that reminds me you didn't do an attachment, then I get rid of a lot of that. So that's nice. Some of you from engineering will know about FMEA, failure mode effects analysis, and this is very similar. So that's I just built an engine and I want to know all the ways that it can fail. And I'm going to have probabilities on every failure mode. Analyze it down. So if you're doing usability of a software app, you can also say, what are all the ways it can fail? And what's interesting is you can have the app failing like, oh, it's got a bug and it crashed, but you can also have, well, the app failed because the user was so frustrated they uninstalled it. Right? And they're like, no, I'm going back to my old app.
So that, like failure mode effect analysis, how do we link this? Like there we talk about severity, occurrence and detection of some event that should not take place. And then we calculate the risk.
Yeah, that's right.
So here, this is that is real, and this is hypothetical. Where how do we get this is based on past history.
That's an excellent question. He's over here like, oh, I want to use this tomorrow at work. So how are we going to get all the probabilities? And that is the question when it comes time for human stuff. And in fact, that's the next slide. It's like, that's a problem. And so some people will complain and say, like, getting the problems for humans perceiving stuff can be hard. Now you could estimate, just like we were doing with VACP earlier, where like estimating the cognitive, you could estimate maybe reasonable probabilities because it maybe not matter between 0.6 and 0.8, something like that. The hardest thing with this mode is unexpected events that you just didn't dream up. There's this concept of the black swan. Have you heard of this? So swans are normally white, but every once in a while there's a weird genetics and there's a black swan. So people will talk about the black swan as like the really rare unexpected event. And they're hard to anticipate. So, yeah, and then the other thing is about independence of events. So this whole probability thing sort of assumes independence, that things are happening separately from each other, but they're not in reality, like a lot of stuff's connected. So there was a whole other field that's like, we don't do that risk assessment stuff, we do resilience engineering, which was a little controversial when it came out because it said, we're going to assume the machine's going to fail. People are like, what? We're John Deere, we make great tractors. No, we're going to assume they're going to fail. And we're going to assume they're going to fail most in these ways, and we're going to have backup methods. We're going to build backups for if they fail here, we're going to come in here. We're going to fail over here, we're going to come in with this. And so it's a whole different attitude that was controversial and not everybody appreciates. But it gets around this a little bit. So again, I'm trying to tell you about these a little bit because this is from the engineering mechanical world, and you can apply it to some of these things cognitively too. So the question is how much we're going to blame the people versus the machine. This is again the resilience engineering still. In the old safety approach and human error, it was like, oh, what we told people what to do, and they didn't do it. And we're like, who's responsible for this? We need, we had a plane crash. Who's to blame, right? And over here, it's more like, okay, what system is in place? What are people's incentives? What are the behaviors that our system is going to lead to? And where does that lead to death and error? So you have this sort of system approach. And it may not be that one person is responsible. So recently, I don't know if the news made it over here, a year ago or something, there was a crash of this helicopter and airplane in Washington, D.C. So in Washington, D.C., where there's a lot of planes and a lot of important people, there was a passenger jet coming over and there was an Army helicopter and they totally crashed and everything blew up and everybody died. Like it was just like right into each other. So it was like 200 people died, right? And this is above D.C., where like the falling parts of planes could have killed even more people. So just now, they're coming out with like what happened, what went wrong. And so far, they've got 3 major people involved, like the air traffic controller and the 2 pilots, and they're trying to figure out what they're doing from the black boxes. And it's really interesting because it's not black and white. It's things like, well, we teach the pilots to do X, but they don't always do X. When they're stressed, they sometimes do less than X, or under these circumstances, they do these things. And by the way, the helicopter gauges weren't well calibrated because this machine is sort of wonky and is not always reliable. So it's like a multiple effects, and they combine, and then you have death. So it's like, okay, if I have enough complex systems, the probability of failure can grow because the probability of failure of something is more likely. Right? If I have like a basket of 20 fruits, the probability that one fruit is bad is higher than if I have a basket of 2 fruits. So if I have a complex system with a bunch of pieces, the probability that something's going to go wrong is higher, the more you add in there. So it's nice to try to keep your systems as simple as possible is the take home. Okay, here's some types of errors. Slips versus mistakes. Slips is like, hey, I see the weather report, it's going to rain tomorrow, I should take an umbrella. And so you have the right plan, and then you leave for work and you forget your umbrella. So that's a slip. Like you had the right idea, but you didn't do it. Or I could say, well, I'm almost out of gas, but I want to do my shopping first. So it's like, no, that's a bad plan. So you executed properly. You decided to do the shopping first, and you did that plan that you decided on, but you made the wrong plan. So that's an actual mistake, right? Like you screwed up in your decision. Here's a very popular one. It's the post-completion error. Here I assume there's copy machines for paper where you like, I want to copy this piece of paper. I lift the thing and I put it on, I shut the thing and I push copy. A lot of times people will leave the original on the glass and they walk away because they've got their copy. Like I walked up to the machine saying, I need a copy. And I do the thing and I push, I get a copy, and now I got my copy, so I leave. You know, you didn't walk away saying, I'm going to get a copy and an original. So that's post-completion error. I completed my task, and so here's the copy machine breakdown, task analysis. You know, I put the paper, which means I lift the cover, place the original, close the cover. How many copies do I punch the number, make the copies, press copy, remove the copies, and I'm like, and now I need to go to lunch. My next goal. And you forget the thing about, you know, get the next thing.
It's like you take your boarding pass, but you leave your passport with you.
There you go. That's right. There's a lot of these.
Bigger consequences.
Let's see, do I have the ATM one? Yeah, this used to be with ATM machines. So the very first ATM machines and the cash machines would give you your card back after your money. And then people would leave their card sitting there because they're like, I got my money, and they walk away. So now they will give you your card first and then give you the money. Let me go back a slide though. So you can try to design for these errors, the point. You know, so if you're thinking of an app, you think about, okay, what errors are possible? What errors are likely? My users, what sort of errors are they going to make? And you need to anticipate them and have very strong cues, right? If you can't design out the errors, then you got to have very strong cues, like remember the original, like remember. Oh yeah, the other tactics you can have are to have an undo button. There's not a lot of mobile apps with an undo button. Can anyone think of a mobile app with an undo button? There are some, but like if I'm doing sketch, like I have a photo and I want to draw a mustache on somebody, I can do undo. Which one?
Design softwares like SolidWorks.
That's right.
In mobile application, most of the editing softwares have that undo.
That's right. So I'm editing a photo, I draw the mustache on my mom or something, and then I want to hit undo. You know, yeah. This is 150 milliseconds. You think that's a short time, and human reaction times are around 400 milliseconds, but you need to have a system react within 150 milliseconds, or people will think the button was not pressed, right? So if I press a button, it needs to go beep, or it needs to light up, or something needs to happen, or else like, well, I didn't press it. And then they press it again. So I'm not going to play this video, but Bonnie John is a famous designer of interfaces at IBM. And so she has a really nice video about implementing cancel, which is basically far more complicated than you would imagine. It's just hard to do cancel correctly. Because if you think about it, especially if you're in an involved state, like if you're in editing software or SolidWorks or something, maybe you're like, oh, I want a new cylinder over here, and I'm going to stretch it, and da-da-da-da. And then like if I hit cancel, what's supposed to happen? Is it just an undo, or is it like drop the whole cylinder? So it can get complicated about what cancel means depending on what context you're in. This is also an interesting, these are videos that are really sort of funny to watch. Dominic Furness is at London, University College London, and okay, one of them we have to watch, sorry, because it's too good. is about the microwave races. I think this is the microwave races one.
$42 lakhs per annum.
Wow, 42 lakhs, that's your salary?
Yes.
And what do you do?
Okay, this is not. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to summarize because I want to get to the good part. But in this one, he is making tea, and he like pulls the tea down off the shelf, and he pulls the milk out of the refrigerator, and he combines them in the right way, and then he puts the milk on the shelf and puts the tea in the refrigerator. Right, and so he's making this sort of mistake because he's tired in the morning. And he's had another one where he puts, I think it's shaving cream on his toothbrush sort of thing, because they're both similar tubes. So he'll do these sort of errors. But I want to get to the microwave races. Oh, this one's worth watching too. Okay.
Entered 15 mils per hour. In hospitals, infusion pumps and...
Come on, go. Why is it not doing its thing?
It is important that device design is right to reduce the likelihood of error. I heard of a case where a nurse entered 15 mils per hour instead of 1.5 mils per hour. People on our project think this was influenced by bad design. They suspect the nurse pressed a 1, then a decimal, then accidentally pressed another decimal. To delete this, she pressed the delete key, which strangely deleted both decimals. And then she pressed the 5. The nurse was sacked for not checking this figure. Reflecting on this, I went down to Swansea to find out more about this sort of work.
Recently, I've been looking at number entry in medical devices, and I've simulated one of the number entry systems seen in the syringe pump.
Sorry.
So there are 4 arrows that are used to increase and decrease numbers in this particular number entry system. And these 2 are used to increase the number. And these 2 are used to decrease the number. I think it's quite reasonable to assume that these 2 buttons, this small arrow and the small arrow, are sort of realistic in each other. However, this is not always the case in some of the values. So we have acute cases increasing or changing the number between 9, 10, and maybe changing the number between 18 and 40. So for instance, if we go to increasing by 1, we try to decrease, which is probably there.
Oh, I should turn on captions.
We go right up, 9.7, we're still increasing by 0.1, but suddenly we decrease by 0.8. I think this is very peculiar behavior. I don't think it was planned by the manufacturer, but it is sort of thing we've discovered. So I think it would be interesting to do an experiment to find out how much people look at the screen. So, for instance, I think personally that this particular user interface forces you to look at the screen. That might be one good thing about it.
So he's like, it's so bad, it forces you to look at it. So that's an interesting perspective, right? Okay, so, you know.
You don't know. You're really not sure what is going to happen when you press any of these buttons.
Here's the microwave races. And you could try this with your friends if you want.
Hello. I'm Rachel, and this is how microwave happens.
So my name is Chris. I'm a PhD student at UCL. We use the microwave.
Okay, so my name is Matcha. Big microwave.
So I've been in here for about 5 years now, and I'm starting to use it every day, but didn't quite a lot, so you'd like to do it.
This is very microwave Microwave, ready. 3, 2, 1, go.
He's done. I feel bad for her, right? I mean, these are postgraduate students, right? These are not dumb people, right? So, and now, yeah, it like won't stop. So the microwave has the chaos button, right? So these are graduate students, right? So the interface is so bad that it's going to stymie. So you have to worry about your design, right? And how it's going to affect people. It's going to lead them down this path. No, they were living in. Like, people are like, "Oh, I live here."
Still didn't learn.
But in every appliance, we say that we only use 20% of the settings 80% of the time. So
Yeah, you only use some settings. So the half power thing, maybe people don't use that, right? Yeah. Our student group, our HCI student group that thinks UX had an alarm clock thing. We had, when you go to hotels, often there's an alarm clock. Less so now with people's phones, but alarm clocks vary a lot, and we had alarm clock racing. Like, quick, set the alarm clocks to alarm tomorrow at 6 a.m. How fast can you do it? And people were like, it was fun to watch. Yeah.
When these device modelers planning these things as to how it should be user friendly, like in this example, we've seen 4 different versions. So the other device modelers, why don't they see that this is so much easier? Why do they still do their own design when it's more cumbersome?
I don't think they're watching the movies. They're just not. They don't know how bad it is. A lot of them aren't really doing user testing. They're like, oh, let's make the buttons symmetrical and silver, and they're going to be pretty. They're not thinking about the time it takes.
So even in medical equipment, usually when we buy it, say from Siemens or GE or whatever, they say that we cannot use any other spare part because it has to be from there. It's a proprietary. Why don't they make it?
Oh, like universal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. I mean, some of that you have to use our parts is just, I think, a monopoly thing. They're just trying to get your money, but some of it does matter. Like the quality might degrade. I don't know when it matters and when it doesn't.
Machines which are very costly, but microwaves are cheap. It's pretty easier to replace one than to replace.
Yeah, that's right. If it's an fMRI, you got to get it right. But yeah. Okay, let's keep going. So that's your checklist. We had the checklist from the user and checklist for the world. So human error, we had the privacy, we talked some about accessibility, the micro, meso, macro, the trust, the human error. All right, so now it's time. It's time for the activity. But before we do the activity, I want to go over and highlight our nice documents. So speculative fiction stories. Oh, pop-up blocked. So here we've got the stories. So I just encourage you to read these. I thought this was really well done. So thank you for that time and this effort. And we've got this one here, Beings of Tomorrow. And then we've got this one over here, Farming Redefined. So there's some nice stories. That's all the stories, right? No other stories coming? You got one more story? Okay, so get your story out there so we can all see it and admire it. And then the measures of trust, we're going to have some of that, I hope. So here's one here. Nice. And then, here's some other ones. Okay, let's do a quick look at the equations. So we're gonna have some weighted. Oh, we have weighted reliability, integrity, competence, benevolence. Okay, that's interesting. And then we're gonna have over here sum of each trust rating. So average, we're gonna average across the ratings. Okay. And then, oh, I get it. This is like a fraction. Number of promises over number of promises. Yeah, okay. 2 promises. That's good.
So that one, that one was based on my real experience. I got badly scammed from a person.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's real life. Yeah. No, I'm not good that you got scammed, but
It was a good, like, now I really have trust issues from buying someone from Facebook Marketplace.
okay. That's great. All right. So please look at these. I think I was telling Prof. Mohit, y'all are doing just as well as the grad students I have at Iowa State. I mean, y'all are doing great. So I appreciate having you in the class. I mean, it's really nice. And so you're putting some energy in, and this is all good thinking. So that's been really great. So you would feel right in, you'd fit right in at Iowa State. Okay. So now, the activity does not have slides for once. It has a piece of paper. And we have the checklist at the top. And we went through and said on the system, you're going to imagine a system and you have to evaluate it. So imagine you're a consultant being hired to say, we're thinking of launching this product. And do you have any concerns? And you're going to work through this checklist of like, here's my concerns, here, da, da, da. So I would suggest a group of 2 or 3 people, and I've got 5 products described, 5 futuristic products, and I'm asking you to pick 2 of the products and use some of the lenses in the checklist, lenses or checklists to look at those products. And so your deliverable would be, I'll make another Google Doc, and you could be like, okay, here's the product, the autonomous vehicle. Here's our concerns about social factors versus uncertainty versus whatever. So it's like something, just a couple sentences for your client to say, I think this is a great product, but here are my concerns. And you sort of list them out. Does that make sense? Okay, so why don't you pass those around? Just pass them around.
So we can get more structured text.
It's on the sheet. Yeah.
Is it more like resonance engineering, like you figure out where it can go wrong?
Yeah, you can figure out where it can go wrong. Yeah. So do you want me to put you in groups, or you're good with your groups? You're good. Okay. Let's get Pranav in a group. Hello? Okay, so here's the QR code to get to this doc where you can put your work in. Or it's just in the same Google Drive folder as all your readings. So I want you to get a start on it now, and then so you can ask questions, and then we'll break for lunch and stuff.
So this is measures of trust. When I scan.
Oh, does that go to measures of trust? Well, that's weird. Does anybody else get that? They go to measures of trust? Or it went to this one? You got this one. Huh. Maybe try again? You're good? Okay. That doesn't look like the activity. That doesn't look like the activity.
I just shared the link on the group.
Oh, okay.
For everyone.
Okay. No, that's fine. Are you okay?
Yeah, what it means, it communicates with a mobile app used by the middle-aged children or nurses.
Like I want to monitor my mom when she's in procedure caries, so maybe I'm the middle-aged child, or the nurse wants to monitor my mom. So something like that, yeah. Yeah, good question. Hey. Doing okay? Good. Does anyone have questions about the products or anything?
emotion circle where marking different emotions.
Sorry, what?
So you had shown an emotion circle where it's
Oh yeah, the valence and
the
arousal.
valence and arousal.
Yeah.
That might be useful for us.
Okay, you want me to put it up there? Yeah, I'll go. I can put it up on screen. Hi. We get the emotions up there. Hi.
For every point, there is a lens. So, in each lens, do I need to give a statement or can I make it like gut score that how users will feel, what will be their feedback?
I think you could, ideally, you'd analyze it from each lens, but on some lenses, you might just be like, we're okay here, nothing big here.
Okay, okay.
You know.
If it is not okay, so what it should be?
Right.
That's different.
Yeah, maybe I have a concern about this.
Yes, so that concern in that way it can be fixed.
Yeah, ideally, if you can fix it, or you can maybe you can't fix it. We shouldn't launch this product.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, here's a good question. So on the analysis, you might decide, like I'd like it for you pick your product, and then I want you to look at it from each of the check boxes, each of the checklist items. But on some of them, you may be okay. So you may be like, hey, on this product, emotion's not a thing. We're not worried about that. But in this other checkbox about social factors, we have real concerns here because this is going to happen and this is going to happen. If you want to go farther, you could propose a solution, but you don't have to necessarily. So you're more like reporting to the client. Like, okay, if you launch this product because of the social factors, it's going to fail. So you need to worry about that, or unless you do this, or something like that. Okay. Is that all you needed? You just need the emotion thing?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. Do you have a partner, or are you going to do anything, or maybe you don't have time to do it?
Yes.
Okay. Do people have their partners figured out? Yeah. Oh. Oh, I thought y'all moved around. I thought maybe y'all are a group now. Okay.
Or maybe like there are only very less people left who we haven't teamed up with yet. So maybe
Okay, because we got teams here, pairs here. I think y'all are all teamed up, right? Yeah, so it's the three of you and the two in front here. Okay, so y'all be, so
I want to join them because this was our previous group.
okay, so you can join them, yeah, whatever you want. As long as you don't hurt their feelings too badly.